Charles Stanley, Life Principle 12. Peace with God is the fruit of oneness with God. Every now and then we do well to take stock of our situation, so I'd like to ask you to look around. What's happening in your life and in the life of your family? You may not be experiencing a difficult time. From your perspective, everything may seem sunny and clear. Storms come, however. At times they roll over our lives with bounding blows. How do we maintain a sense of peace and spiritual balance when trials strike? The answer is found in a close, abiding relationship with Jesus Christ. The words of Helen Lemmel's classic hymn, "Turn Your Eyes Upon Jesus," contain a vital and exciting truth. An unshakable peace is available to all who turn the eyes of their hearts to Jesus. Chances are that when adversity strikes, one of the first things you do is to wonder why. Then you may question what kind of impact it will have on your life. While reactions such as these are normal, we also need another response, and that is to turn to the one who holds all comfort and security firmly within his grasp. No one outside of God is equipped to handle our problems. He never meant for us to be strong on our own. He wants us to find courage and hope and strength in Him and His Word. Many wonder what they can do to change the feelings of anxiety they feel when they come under pressure. One of the first steps is to recognize anxiety for what it is, the opposite of peace. It is the fan that flames the fires of doubt and confusion and has the ability to leave us helplessly bundled up in worry and fear. When we cave into thoughts of anxiety, we lose our spiritual focus and mindset. The key to overcoming anxiety is found only in the presence of God. Paul admonishes us, "Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds through Christ Jesus." Philippians 4, 6 and 7. Accepting God's timetable and the limitations He places on a given situation helps to dispel rising anxiety. Therefore, let Him provide for you in His timing. When you accept life as a gift from the hand of God, then you will do what Helen Lemmel's song says. You will turn your eyes towards Jesus. You will look full into His glorious face and there find mercy and grace, forgiveness and hope, peace and everlasting security. What would you give to experience the peace of God? Are you willing to lay down the anger that haunts your soul because someone has done something to wound you? God knows the hurt you have experienced. Will you trust Him in quietness, knowing that He has not forgotten you, but stands ready to heal you? God's peace is unshakable because there has never been a time or an event when God has felt disturbed. His peace and presence are sure. They are immovable. You will accomplish many things, great and mighty, when you keep your focus on God. At one of the most difficult points in his life, David wrote Psalm 91, which begins, "He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in Him will I trust." How could David write such words, especially when King Saul with King Saul trying to kill him? David had a divine, unshakable peace within his heart. He knew this was God's responsibility, and David allowed him to protect his life. The safest place for you when trials come is in celebrating the everlasting arms of Jesus. After his resurrection, Jesus appeared to his disciples and said to them, "Peace be with you." John 20:19. This was not a trite greeting. The Lord had a specific point in mind. He spoke of God's peace, immovable and eternal, the peace you need today. Does something trouble you? Has a conflict, a sorrow, or a situation is escalated beyond your control? Hear his word to you. Peace be with you. Let his peace invade your heart. Tell him all you are feeling. He understands and knows that life can be difficult, but he has a solution. Our peace resides in our Savior, who loves us unconditionally. He has promised to keep us and deliver us into the Father's loving arms. I'll give you one more incident in my life when I feel it wasn't a coincidence, but a God incident. We'd been down to my daughter's in Flamborough. It was Boxing Day, and we always got together with a family gathering, quite a few of us, and we all brought a dish, and it was I guess a potluck dinner thing. Everybody brought something different, and we'd done this for years. On the next day, the 27th, Dot and I left to come home. We'd barely gotten on the road when I developed a severe case of heartburn. And I mean severe. It would start down and come right up and into my throat. And I don't mean it was just a little bit. It burned so bad that I could hardly stand it. I said to Dot, I don't know what's going on, but man, I am really suffering from this. So after we got home, the next day, I phoned the doctor. She prescribed a medication to me to help to combat this. So I went and picked it up and I started taking it. It was 2 days later, I woke up about 2 o'clock in the morning and I was going crazy with chest pains. Well, if you know my wife, you know that chest pains indicate heart problems. So she said, into the car, we're going to the hospital. So I didn't fight, I did not say no, I put my clothes on and we got in the car and we drove into Collingwood. One of those nights when I walked into the hospital, nobody in the waiting room, told them what was happening, and boom, I was into the emergency room just like that. Dot did all the signing in, and they took me in and they started on the procedures. If you go in with chest pains, they don't waste time. After about 3 or 4 hours in the emergency, the doctor came in, sat down with me. He said, Arthur, we've done a whole bunch of tests. I said, okay. He said, we can't find anything wrong with your stomach. We can't find anything wrong with your heart. But we did find something that you need to know about. And I said, what's that? He said, our x-rays indicate you have a growth about the size of an egg on your lung. I said, oh. yes, that is something. He said, I'll be sending this report to your family doctor and we'll be getting in touch with you. So anyway, make a long story short, within a few days I was down at South Lake again, and they did a biopsy of the growth in my chest. The results came back a couple of days later, and my doctor called me and said, I need to see you. So I went in, and I'm sitting in her office, and she said, Arthur, we've got the results of your biopsy in. I said, okay, what are the results? And she said, it's malignant. Well, you know, when someone tells you that you have cancer, it takes the wind out of your sails. I must admit that I didn't know what to expect, but it does take the wind out of your sails. But you know, I still believe God was in control of all that. It ended up with me, they tried to remove the thing through laparoscopic surgery, only to get in and find out that the tumor wrapped itself around my aorta and would not come out. The next step they decided was chemotherapy. They put me on a chemotherapy that was called cisplatin, which according to the druggist told me that cisplatin originally killed as many people as it saved, which was a great thing to tell me. But he said that if they gave it with steroids, they didn't have to give you as much cisplatin, and it worked just as good. Well, in my case, cisplatin pretty near killed me. That's the way it felt, but it didn't do anything to reduce the tumor. And I ended up having to go in for surgery. The surgery was planned. They had a cardiac team there because of my bypass surgery. They felt that they would have to do some more grafts because they would have to remove a part of the aorta where two of the grafts had been joined in. I had the cardiac team all ready to go. They had prepped me to remove the vein from my right leg because that was the one they didn't use the first time. And off to surgery I went. When I woke up, the first doctor that came to see me was Dr. Chin, the little cardiac doctor, the little heart doctor. And she stood at the foot of my bed and she had a grin on her like you wouldn't believe. And she said to me, that was the easiest heart surgery I've had to do. And I said, oh, what happened? She said, when we went in and opened you up, she said, the tumor unwound from around your aorta, no problem at all, just unwound from around your aorta. She said, we never had to touch your heart. I said, oh, that's good news. She said, the only thing that had to be done was it had attached itself to your right lung, and we had to remove a very small portion of your right lung. She said, very simple compared to heart surgery. It was sometime later I found out that the doctor, Dr. Lee, who'd done my surgery, I was his last surgery in South Lake. He'd actually resigned from South Lake and was finishing on that day, so I was his last surgery. He left the hospital, that was on a Thursday. On the Sunday, I'm sitting there, and Dr. Lee all of a sudden appeared at the foot of my bed. There was nobody around, the nurses, nobody there, and all of a sudden there's Dr. Lee, and I looked up, I said, oh, Dr. Lee, what are you doing in here? He said, I came back in to check on you. I said, oh, that's nice. He said, yes, he said, I wanted to see how you're doing. He said, and let you know how things went. I said, okay. Everything went okay? He said, yes. He said, I said, you got all the cancer? He said, yes, we got all the cancer. He said, everything went well. He said, when we started it, because of the procedure we were going to have to go through, he said, some of my team didn't think we would be able to do this. He said, there was a lot of skepticism in it. But he said, when we opened you up, everything went fine. I said, well, I'm glad to hear that. Well, I believe that all this happened and God ordained it. I know for a fact that people were praying for me all across Canada, even down through the States, down to Florida, especially in Myrtle Beach, in Camp Ledour, all my friends that I'd made down there who knew about my situation for praying for me. And I believe God intervened in that, because if I had not had the indigestion, I would have never known I had the tumor. But the amazing thing with that is, I don't suffer from indigestion like that. And I haven't had indigestion like that since. So do you think that was a coincidence? That was a God moment.